r/no sleeps. I know it's been a while since I've made one of these, but it's because I don't know, don't have time. Today we're reading Never Let Your Children Meet Their Imaginary Friends in Person Ever. It was the last week of summer that I knew. We all knew it. We felt it. The kids in town were going to bed each night, tossing and turning, knowing they'd soon be fighting for that extra 15 minutes of sleep. Soon we'd be no longer waking up to the sun gleaming in our eyes, but instead the cacophony of alarms tearing our dreams in half. Back to early mornings and tyrant teachers sucking the lives out of our poor captive souls. What I didn't know was that final week of summer would be the last time I ever see my friends that I had never even met. Kevin and Jordan were my best friends, my brothers. They were in my life for as long as I can remember. Kevin was a year older than me, and Jordy was a year younger. Our bond was nearly that of twins, or triplets of that matter. We were we were there to witness each other's first steps, words, laughs, everything. Even before the universe could switch on my consciousness, it was like they were always by my side, floating in some eternal void I could never make sense of. From what I can remember, my childhood was normal. I was well fed, my parents told me stories at night, they loved me enough to kiss my wounds when I took a spill. I got in trouble, but not too much trouble. My bed stayed dried most of the time. Things were good. It wasn't until about 9 when my normalcy came to a question. Our son is going to grow up to be a freak. I bet the Smithsons boy doesn't go to his room and sit in total silence all day and night. It's not his fault. I'm a terrible father. If he grows up to be a weird kid, we're all going to know him be known as a weird parents. The boy needs help. My father's voice could reach the back of the auditorium, so down the hall and to the left was no chore for his booming words when they came passing through my bedroom door and into my little ears. From the outside looking in, sure, I was the weird kid. How could I not be? It was perfectly normal for an only child to have a couple of cute and precious imaginary friends when they were a toddler. But that cutesy feeling turned into an acid climbing up in the back of my parents' throats when their child is approaching double digits. Dad did his damnedest to get me involved in sports, scouts, things that moved fast or sounded fast, things that would get me hurt in all the right ways. Mom, well, she was mom, I was her baby boy, and no matter how strange or off kilter I might have been, I was her strange and off kilter boy. As I settled into my preteens, the cutesy act ended, and Act 2 of Boy, Get Out of Your Room and Get Your Ass Outside act began. For years I tried explaining to my parents and everyone around me that Kevin and Jordy were real, but nobody believed me. Whatever grief my parents gave me was multiplied tenfold by the kids at school. By that time, any boy in my right mind would have dropped the act and made an effort to adjust, but not me. The hell I was caught wor- the hell I caught was worth it. I knew they were real. Kevin and Jordy knew things I didn't. I remember the math test hanging on our fridge, A plus. I'm so proud of you, Mom said. Looks like we have a little Einstein in the house. Nope, wasn't me. That was all Kevin. I'm not one to condone cheating, but if you're born with a gift like us three shared, you'd use it too. The night before that test, I was in the clubhouse with my boys. At least that's what we called it. Our clubhouse wasn't built with splintered boards and rusty nails, but the imagination stitched together with scraps of wonder and dream stuff. It was our kingdom, a fortress perched on top of the scenery of our choosing, with rope ladders dangling in the winds that we could feel. No rules, no boundaries, thus the infinite cosmic playground that we call our own. It was a place that collectively existed in our minds, a place we barely understood, but hardly questioned. Kevin was soaring through the air on a giant hawk slash lion slash zebra thing that he made up for himself. He had a sword in one hand and the neck of a dragon in the other. Jordy and I were holding down the fort. We were trying to track down that son of a bitch for weeks. I heard my mom's heavy footsteps barreling towards my room. Somehow she always knew. Guys, I have to go. My mom is coming in hot. Seriously? Jordy wasn't happy. You're just gonna leave us hanging like this with the world at stake? Sorry, it's 2 a.m. You know how my mom gets. Lucky you! My mom only barges in when I'm sneaking a peek of Channel 46 at night. At least your mom knows you like girls, unlike Tommy's mom, said Jordy. Isn't that right, Tommy? The vicious vernacular of the barely prepubescent boy, the usual clubhouse talk. Kill or be killed. I wasn't up for the next fight. Alright, that's enough, you guys. That's enough for me, guys. I have a quiz in the morning, and it's already too late. Kevin, can you meet me at the clubhouse at 10 a.m.? You got it, said Kevin. I let him back at bed just for the time my mom thinks she saw me sleeping. I only say landed because leaving the clubhouse, a place buried so deep in my mind, felt like falling from the ground and onto the roof of an 80-story building. The next morning, I walked into Mrs. Van Bergen's math class. She already had the quiz perfectly centered on the kid's desk. Ruthless. She was in her 60s, and whatever joy she had grooming the nation's youth into leaders of tomorrow had gone up in smoke like the heaters she burned before and between all classes. As I sat at my desk, I watched each kid trudge on in with their heads hung low, but mine was hoisted high. I had Kevin. As soon as all the kids sat down, I shut my eyes and climbed into the clubhouse. Like a great friend he was, Kevin was already waiting. Question by question, he not only gave me the answer, but gave me a thorough explanation on how to solve each problem. He was the smartest kid I knew. Math, no problem. History, only a calendar knew dates better than him. Any test he helped me take was bound to find its way to the sanctity of my mom's fridge. We were going to last two problems when Jordy decided to make an hour appearance. Tommy, Kevin, you guys in there? Jordy yelled as he climbed the ladder. Guys, you have to check out this new song. I don't have time for this right now. I'm in the middle of. Jordy's round face peeked through the hatch. So I'm driving to school with my mom today, and the song came on the radio. Fine Young Cannabis. Cannibals? Have you ever heard of them? No, seriously, I haven't. No, I haven't. Seriously though, Kevin is helping me with she drives me crazy. Oh, Jordy, can you please just like no one else? Oh, Jordy. My patience was usually deep, but quite shallow for Jordy was used up. Jordy froze. I'll hear about the song after school. I promise. We are getting through my math test. Academically, Jordy wasn't the brightest. Socially, too. And to be honest, all of us are probably socially inept. Hell, we spend most of our free time inside our own heads and up in the clubhouse. Jordy had dangerous levels of wit and could turn anything into a joke. Although his comedic timing was perfect, the timing of his comedy was not. There was far too many times I'd be sitting in the back of my class zoning out into the clubhouse, and Jordy would crack a joke that sent me into a violent fit of laughter. Needless to say, all the confused eyes in the physical world turned to me, and just like that, the saga of the strange kid continued. If I close my eyes tight, I can faintly hear the laughs of summer reverberating through what's left of the clubhouse. It was summer before 8th grade, and as it began as a summer to remember. The smell of fresh cut grass and gasoline danced through the air. The neighbor kids rode their bikes from dusk until dawn, piling their aluminum steeds into the yards of kids whose parents weren't home. They ran through yards that weren't theirs, playing tag, getting dirty, and wearing holes in their jeans. Most importantly, they were creating bonds and forging memories that would last and continue to strengthen among those lucky enough to stick around for the remember wins and maybe grow old together. I participated in none of it. While all the kids were fighting off melanoma, I was in the shadows of my room, working on making my already pale skin translucent. Although my room was a sunlight repellent, no place shined brighter than the clubhouse. As the boys and I inched towards our last week of summer, we laughed, we cried, and we built a fantastic dreamscapes, rich with stories and lore. We were truly flexing our powers within the endless walls of the clubhouse, but soon the vibrant colors that painted that dreamscape would darken into an unnerving shades of nightmares. Unless one of our boys was on a yearly vacation, it was abnormal for the clubhouse to not contain all three of us. Our gift, our burden, had some sort of proximity effect. The further one of us traveled from one another, the weaker the signal would become. But something wasn't adding up. Each week that went by, Kevin's presence became scarcer. He wasn't out of range. I could feel him nearby, sometimes stronger than usual. Kevin began going silent for days at a time, and his presence grew away that of like a warm breath traveling down the back of my neck. I didn't understand. By the time the last weeks of summer arrived, our power trio had turned into a dynamic duo. Don't get me wrong, I love Jordy, but I can only handle some of his unsolicited fact about pop culture and his gross obsession with Belinda Carsley. Even though I was mildly obsessed myself, the absence of Kevin felt like a dance party was missing a leg. It was Sunday evening, the night before the last I'd ever seen my friends. Jordy and I were playing Battleship. B6, I said. A rocket shot through the air and crossed the still waters, and the explosion caused a wake that crashed into my artillery. Damn it, you sunk my battleship. Can you read my mind or something? Jordan was flustered. No, you idiot. You literally always put a ship on the B row every single time. You're too predictable. I call bullshit. You're mind reading. How come I can't read your mind? Maybe you need an IQ of above 20 to read minds? The bickering swept back and forth. Right before the bickering turned hostile, a welcome surprise showed itself. Kevin! Jordy, ecstatic, flew across the waters to give Kevin a hug. Kevin held him tight. Where have you been? I asked. Kevin just stared at me. His bottom lip began quivering as his eyes welled up. He kept taking deep breaths and tried to speak, but the hurt buried deep in his throat fought off words. We all waited, and with great effort, Kevin said, I don't think I'll be able to see you guys anymore. The tears became contagious. My gut felt like I was disintegrating, and my knees convinced me they were supporting an additional 500 pounds. The light of the clubhouse was dimmed. What happened? What's going on? For the first time in my life, I saw sadness on Jordy's face. Kevin responded with silence, and we waited. After some time, Kevin said, It's my parents. All they've been doing is fighting. It never ends. All summer long, yelling and screaming. I've been caught in the middle of everything. That's why I haven't been around. Kevin went on to detail as we sat and listened. It was bad, really bad. The next thing he said opened the floodgates among the three of us. I just came to tell you guys goodbye. I'm moving away. God, did we cry. We stood in a circle with our arms around one another and allowed each other to feel the terrible feelings in the air. And just like that, a brother had fallen. A part of us who made us who we were, a piece of our soul was leaving us, and it wasn't fair. We were supposed to start families together, grow old, and our entire future was getting stomped on and snuffed out. Kevin's head shot up. I have an idea. What if we meet up tomorrow? Meet up tomorrow night. It was an idea that we had discussed in the past, meeting up. Why not? We were only a few towns apart. Each time the conversation came up and the plans were devised, the stage some sort of set to get our parents to coincidentally drop us off at the same place without explicitly saying, "Hey, can you drop me off so I can go meet my imaginary friends?" The idea would be dismissed and put to rest. It wasn't because we didn't want to meet one another in person. It was because meet up? What do you mean meet up? Where? Jordan nearly looked offended. Oh, what about Orchard Park? It's basically right in the middle of our town, so we could probably get there in an hour or so on our bikes. Maybe hour and a half, said Kevin. Orchard Park is 10 miles away. I haven't ridden my bike that far in my life. Tommy hardly even knows how to ride a bike. Jordy started raising his voice. Shut up, Jordy. I wasn't in the mood for jabs. No, you shut up, Tommy. You've been over us. I'm not ready to meet up. Why not? You're just gonna let Kevin go off in the void? See you later? Good riddance? I'm just not ready, said Jordy. Not ready for what? Said Kevin. Jordy paced in a tight circle, his fists were clenched. Not ready for what, Jordy? I'm not ready to find out I'm a nutcase, alright? The clubhouse is literally the one thing I have in my life that makes me happy. I'm tormented every day at school by kids who all think I'm some sort of freak. I'm not ready to find out that none of this is real, that I am in fact a total crazy person. The thought nearly collapsed my spine as it did many times before. It was the only reason we had never met. Jordy's reasons were valid. I also wasn't ready to find out I was living in the same fantasy land either. The thought of trading my bedroom for four padded white walls, was my only hesitation. But there was absolutely no way Jordy and Kevin weren't real. Listen to me, Jordy. I think all three of all the times Kevin helped you with your schoolwork. Think of all the times he told you something you've never seen before and you finally see it. I mean, come on, think of all the times you came barging in here telling us about songs we never heard of. Do you really think that's pretend? Jordy paused deep in thought. Anger took over his eyes and he pointed at Kevin and me. How about this? What if you two are the crazy ones? What if I'm just some made-up person inside your head? How would that make you feel, huh? Jordy began to whimper. You know what? It's a risk I'm willing to take. If you think I'm going to take the chance of never seeing Kevin again, then you are crazy. And you know what? If I get to the park and you guys aren't there, then I'll check myself right into the loony bin and with an ear to ear grin. But you know what else? I know it's not going to happen because I know you guys are real and we have a special. Kevin, I'm going. It was 11:30 p.m. the next night and I dropped into the clubhouse. Are you leaving right now? I asked. Sure am, said Kevin. Remember the bike trail that winds up in the back of Orchard Park? We'll meet right off the trail near the jungle gym. Sounds good. Any word from Jordy? Not a thing. We had spent the previous evening devising a plan. Was it a good one? Probably not. It was a typical kid jumps out the bedroom window and sneaks out of the house operation. I didn't even know that it was possible to tell my parents if I were to get caught, but that was the last thing on my mind. In the most literal sense possible, it was the moment of truth. The summer night was thick. I could nearly drink the moisture in the air. During the day, the bike trails were a peaceful, winding maze surrounded by nature. But the moon-balanced forest made for a much sinister atmosphere. My pedals fled faster and faster with each howl, and I heard from behind the trees. In the shadows were creatures that bred from my imagination, desperately trying to come to life. Fear itself was chasing me from behind, and my little legs could hardly outpace it. I was making good time. I'd never been so thirsty in my life. 10 miles seemed like such a small number, but the deep burning in my legs told me otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was my mantra. Keep the rhythm tight, you're almost there. I saw a clearing in the trees. I had reached Orchard Park. I nearly needed a cane when my feet hit the grass. My legs were fried, and the jungle gym was right up the hill. I used my last bit of energy and sprinted towards the top. Nobody was there. I checked my watch. I was early. God, I hope I was just early. I rode fast. I had to be sure. I had to be early. Surely Kevin was coming. As I waited, I thought about what my life would be in a straitjacket. Were they hot? Itchy even? Was a padded room comfortable and quiet enough to sleep in? One of these thoughts crept up as each minute went by. A sound came from the woods. A silhouette emerged from the trees, and its eyes were trained on me. The shadow spoke. Tommy? Kevin? No, it's Jordy. Jordy! I sprinted down the hill and can't believe it. I felt weightless, and our bodies collided into a hug. There he was. He was a whole pudgy self and round cheeks. It was Jordy in the flesh. He came. He actually came. This is total insanity, said Jordy. No, no, it's not. We aren't insane. With our hands joined, we jumped up and down in circles with smiles so big you think we had just discovered teeth. We aren't insane. We aren't insane. Tears of joy ran down our face, and the brothers had united. I'm not gonna lie to you, said Jordy, wiping a mixture of snot and tears from his face. I was scared, really scared. And the whole time for my entire life, I truly thought I wasn't right. Thought I was crazy. And to see you, it's real. It's just. I grabbed Jordy. I know. The tears continued. I'm glad you came. Have you heard from heaven, Kevin? Asked Jordy. I'm sure he's on his way. Jordy and I sat on the grass and waited. It was surreal. I was sitting with one of my best friends that I had seen every day and yet had never seen before in my life. He looked like just like he did in the clubhouse. In that moment, whatever trouble I could have possibly gotten into for sneaking out was worth every second of the experience. Right from behind us, a deep, gravelly voice emerged. Hey guys, we both shuddered at the same time and seized up. We were busted. Nobody allowed in the park after dark, and we were caught red-handed. Once again, the adults came to ruin the fun. I'm sorry, I said to Matt. We were just meeting up here. We're leaving now. No, guys, I said cheerfully. It's me, Kevin. I don't know how long my heart stopped before it started beating again, but any machine would have surely said that I was legally dead. This wasn't the kid I played with in the clubhouse. This man towered over us. He was huge. What little light the night sky had to offer was blocked by his wide frame, casting down a shadow over us. His stained shirt barely covered his protruding gut, with what little hair he had left on his head. It was fashioned into a bad cover, caked with grease, and I can smell his stench. This is incredible. You guys are actually real? You both look like you do in the clubhouse. I'm so excited. Took a step forward. Kevin took a step forward. Want to play a game or something? We took a step back. There were no words. Kevin took the back of his left hand and gently slid it across Jordy's cheek. Kevin's ring sparkled in the moonlight. God. Oh no. You're just as cute in person as you are in the clubhouse. There were no words. Kevin opened up his arms. Bring it in, boys. Let me get a little hug. I didn't know it was wide in my mouth or my eyes. Each muscle in my body was vibrating, not knowing which direction to guide my bones. Away was the only answer. Jordy froze. Posture made Satches look like an action movie. Kevin grabbed Jordy by the back of the neck. Come here, you big goof. Give me a hug. Kevin looked at me. You too, Tommy. Get over here. Seriously. Jordy was in Kevin's massive, hairy arms, fear radiating off his trembling body. There were no words. Come on, Tommy, don't be rude. Get down in here. Is this how you treat your friends? Jordy began struggling, and there were no words. Kevin's eyes and mine met, and I can hear his breathing. The moment felt like eternity. With Jordy hanging from his strong arms, Kevin lunged at me like a rag doll. Jordy's feet dragged across the grass, and Kevin's sweaty hands grabbed my wrist, and I could still feel his slime. There were no words. Only screams. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. In that moment, there was no thinking. The primal brain took over. I shook, I twisted, I turned, I shuddered, I kicked, I clawed. That moment I slid out of his wretched hand, I ran. Last thing I heard was Jordy's screams. It was high-pitched. Desperation rushed to my ears. It was the sound of finding a permanent home in my spine. The wails continued until Kevin, with great force, slapped his thick hand over Jordy's mouth. I'd never hear Jordy's laughter again. I pedaled my bike like I'd never pedaled before. The breeze caught from my speed, created a chill in the hot summer air. I pedaled all the way home. God, did I pedal. When I got back home, I sprinted into my parents' room, turning on every light along the way. They both sprung up in bed like the roof was caving in. I begged them to call the police. I pleaded them in every way I could. Kevin isn't who he said he was, I said over and over. He took Jordy. Jordy's gone. I told them everything. I told them that Kevin was moving and the thing that we shared didn't work at the distance. I told them I'd snuck out to meet them and none of it registered. I was hysterical. To them, the game was over. The jig was up. My parents weren't having it. They refused to call the police. When I tried picking up the phone myself, my dad smacked me across the face so hard he knocked my cries to the next street over. There were no words. Enough is enough. It's time you grow up. I'm tired of this fantasy bullshit. We're taking you to a specialist tomorrow, and I refuse to have a freak under my roof. They didn't believe me. The look in my mother's eyes told me I was no longer her little baby boy, her strange and off-kilter boy. She covered her eyes as my dad gave me an ass whipping of a lifetime. I had no more tears left to cry. The clubhouse. I miss it mostly. I haven't truly been back in over 20 years. I don't know if I remember how to do it. It's probably better that way. After the terrible night, I spent a couple of days going back to the clubhouse trying to find Jordy. I prayed for a sign of life, something, anything that might tell me he might come back. Anything to tell me where he might be so I could save him. The only thing I caught were glimpses of the most egregious acts no man could commit, only monsters. I don't care to share the details. On the third day after Kevin took Jordy, my parents and I were on the couch watching TV when our show was interrupted by local news. Jordy's face was plastered across the screen. His body was found in the shallow creek 20 miles outside of town. My parents' faces turned wider, then their eyes widened. They looked at me. I couldn't tell if those were faces of disbelief or guilt. Maybe both. There were no words. Every once in a while, I muster up the courage and energy to walk alongside the clubhouse. I can't quite get in, but I can put my ear up to the door, and I can still hear Kevin calling my name. Bruh. That's fucking wild. You imagine that you have these friends for like an entire lifetime and you actually go to meet in person to think that y'all are not crazy. And then you go and meet in person and one of them's not who they say he is and he was a fucking murderer. That's wild. I don't have anything to say. That is the ending for this one. I hope you all enjoy. Let me know what your opinions are in the comments. Yeah, everything's down in the description. Love you guys. You know what to do, and I will see you later. Bye bye.